Welcome to the show, folks. I'm your host, John DeBona, and I'm glad you're here. This is where we cut through the noise and break down the issues happening in our country. Today, we're diving deep into Project 2025 and how it threatens student loan forgiveness, a lifeline for millions of Americans. We must resist Project 2025. Project 2025 is written plainly in black and white. It's a radical agenda, and it's right there for everyone to see. Today, we'll walk you through this and how it affects student loans and financial relief for millions. But first, head over to social media and find turnleftpac.org and subscribe. You've got to watch our Resist Project 2025 Reel series. I think it'll blow your mind. Here's a sneak peek. Project 2025 will end student loan forgiveness programs and push millions back into debt. We must resist Project 2025. On pages 322 and 340, Project 2025 demands the end of student loan forgiveness programs, including public service loan forgiveness and borrower defense to repayment. Project 2025 is about forcing millions of Americans back into crippling debt. By ending student loan forgiveness, it punishes those who dedicated their careers to public service and those whose schools misled them. This isn't about responsibility. It's about keeping people trapped under financial burdens. Project 2025 isn't just an attack on student loan relief, it's an attack on the future of millions of Americans. So the obvious question becomes, what does Project 2025's plan to end student loan forgiveness programs mean for borrowers? Project 2025 is a direct threat to the financial security of millions of borrowers who rely on student loan forgiveness programs. Right now, programs like Public Service Loan Forgiveness, PSLF, allow public service workers, teachers, nurses, and first responders to have their loans forgiven after 10 years of service. But with Project 2025, this crucial relief would be wiped out. If this plan moves forward, borrowers who have spent years making payments, dedicating themselves to public service, will suddenly be forced to keep paying off those loans with no end in sight. Imagine planning your entire financial future around the promise that after a decade of serving your community, your student loan burden would be lifted. Now, Project 2025 pulls the rug out from under those folks, leaving them scrambling to figure out what they're going to do next and how they're going to cover those payments for the next 10, 20, or even 30 years. And the impact doesn't stop there. This plan also affects borrowers who were deceived by predatory for-profit schools. Borrower defense to repayment is one of the few avenues that individuals have to escape the crushing debt they incurred at institutions that lied to them about job placement and the value of their degrees. If Project 2025 gets its way, these borrowers will be trapped in debt with no way out. What we're seeing here is more than just financial hardship. It's an ideological attack on the very idea of student loan forgiveness. Project 2025's message is simple. You took out the loans, now you deal with them, no matter what the circumstance. It completely ignores the systemic issues that have led to this student debt crisis in the first place. Rising tuition costs, stagnant wages, and predatory lending practices. The elimination of student loan forgiveness will lead to long-term financial consequences for borrowers. It will make it harder for them to buy homes, start businesses, or even invest in communities. Without forgiveness, they'll be stuck in a cycle of debt that could last for decades. And this isn't just bad for borrowers, it's bad for the entire economy. When millions of people are burdened by debt, it slows down economic growth for everyone. In short, Project 2025 is a disaster for student loan borrowers. especially those who have committed to public service or who were misled by predatory schools. It's a blatant betrayal of promises made to these individuals and a clear example of how far the proponents of Project 2025 are willing to go to uphold their ideological beliefs, no matter the cost to everyday Americans. So, as we dive a little bit deeper, who will be the most affected by the elimination of these forgiveness programs? The answer to that is the people who will be hit hardest by the elimination of student loan forgiveness programs are the very individuals who can least afford it: public service workers, low income borrowers, and those who attended predatory institutions. Take public service workers, for example. These are the teachers, nurses, and firefighters who entered their fields knowing that they could never earn six-figure salaries, but also knowing that they'd have their loans forgiven after 10 years of service. With Project 2025, that promise is gone. Public service workers have dedicated their lives to serving their communities, often in jobs that are physically and emotionally demanding. Ending PSLF is a slap in the face to these folks. It sends the message that their service isn't valued, that they should shoulder the financial burden of their education alone, even though they're working for the public good. And then there's the issue of predatory for profit schools. Many borrowers were misled by these institutions, promised high paying jobs and credentials that never materialized. Borrower defense to repayment has been one of the only ways for these folks to get relief from the crushing debt that they were left with. Project 2025 would strip away that relief, leaving these borrowers with no way out. These are individuals who were already victims of a broken system, and now they're being victimized again by policies that prioritize profits over people. When borrowers are trapped in debt, they're not able to save for their children's educations, invest in local economies, or contribute to the long-term financial health of their communities. This has a ripple effect, where the economic struggles of an individual borrower leads to economic stagnation in their communities. It's a vicious cycle that will only get worse if Project 2025 succeeds in dismantling student loan forgiveness. In the end, the elimination of these programs will widen the economic divide in this country. It will create a system where only the wealthy can afford higher education without going into debt, while everyone else is left to struggle under the weight of student loans. And that's exactly what Project 2025 is designed to do. It's about protecting the wealthy and the powerful at the expense of the rest of us. Ending student loan forgiveness isn't just about money. It's about punishing people who dedicate their lives to public service. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll discuss how this impacts communities already struggling with debt.
When I ran for Congress, we flipped more Trump voters blue than any other congressional race in the country. We did this by calling out the GOP's lies and speaking truth against their $1 million attack ads. I've now partnered with Turn Left, and we're taking the fight to the extremists like Marge the Trainwreck Green, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, to name a few. And I'm asking each and every one of you all to donate $25 today to the group that is absolutely helping to send these jackaloons packing. It's time to speak truth to power and turn left.
So now let's talk about how eliminating loan forgiveness programs will affect poor and rural communities, places that are already economically disadvantaged. The obvious question becomes, how will eliminating loan forgiveness programs affect these poor and rural communities? Eliminating student loan forgiveness will disproportionately harm poor and rural communities, areas that are already economically disadvantaged and where access to higher education is often seen as the ticket out of poverty. For many in these communities, Student loans are the only way that they can afford a college education. But without loan forgiveness programs, that path becomes far more dangerous. For rural communities, the elimination of student loan forgiveness will have devastating consequences. These are areas where access to jobs that don't require a degree is already limited. Without the option of loan forgiveness, many people in these areas will be less likely to pursue higher education, fearing that the financial burden will be too great. Those who do go to college will be saddled with massive debt that will make it difficult for them to return to their communities and contribute economically. And the debt they carry will limit their ability to invest in local businesses, buy homes, or support their families. In poor communities, the impact is equally damaging. Higher education is supposed to be the great equalizer, offering individuals from low income backgrounds a chance at upward mobility. But without loan forgiveness programs, college becomes less accessible to these individuals. And the prospect of being buried in debt for decades is enough to deter many from pursuing a degree, especially when the financial payoff is uncertain. We know that education is one of the most effective ways to break the cycle of poverty. But Project 2025 would close off that opportunity for millions of Americans. Without loan forgiveness, these communities will see fewer people pursuing higher paying careers, fewer opportunities for economic growth, and more individuals trapped in low paying jobs with no way out. The future of these communities looks bleak if Project 2025 succeeds in eliminating student loan forgiveness. Without access to affordable higher education, poor and rural areas will see an increase in economic stagnation and brain drain, where the most educated individuals leave in search of better opportunities elsewhere. The elimination of student loan forgiveness programs will also exacerbate the growing wealth gap in this country. The wealthy will continue to have access to higher education without the burden of loans, while everyone else is left struggling to repay their debts. This creates a two-tiered system where only those with financial privilege can afford to pursue a degree, leaving low and middle income individuals behind. The economic divide between the rich and the poor will continue to grow, and the gap between rural and urban areas will widen. Rural communities in particular will face what's known as brain drain, where young people leave in search of better opportunities in urban areas because the education they sacrificed for doesn't pay off in their own hometowns. Without young professionals returning home, these rural communities will have fewer small businesses, less local investment, and a declining population, and the families who remain will struggle as local economies dry up, leaving even fewer opportunities for economic growth. So, what does this mean for the future of equality and opportunity in this country? It means that we're creating a system where education and, by extension, financial security becomes a privilege of the wealthy. Without loan forgiveness programs, fewer people from poor or rural backgrounds will be able to afford college. And that's the real goal of Project 2025, to entrench inequality, making sure that the wealthy stay wealthy and everyone else is left to fend for themselves, burdened by debt and fewer opportunities. This will set us back decades, undoing the progress made in education, economic mobility, and community development. If Project 2025 succeeds, we're going to see a future where financial hardship is the norm for millions, and the American dream will remain just that, a dream for far too many. By taking away loan forgiveness, Project 2025 is ensuring that poor and rural communities stay poor. After the break, we'll dive into how this plan widens the gap between the privileged and the underprivileged, making the American dream even more unattainable.
Today, we have an amazing show for you. Join myself, special guests, and celebrities.
What's going on, Ice-T? Andrew Yang.
Somebody else was hopping on.
Oh, hold on.
What's going on, battle?
as we roast GQP jackaloons.
He may not be a real businessman, but he is one hell of a con artist.
That's what it is. That's what they got indicted for. Treason and sedition.
And addresses the headlines of the day.
They must be held accountable.
Live streaming every night.
I got more time in a friggin' port in a friggin' combat zone than you probably got in the military.
This is Ojeda Live.
So as we transition into our last topic, what does this all mean for the future of equality in education? The future of equality in education looks bleak if Project 2025 succeeds. Right now, student loan forgiveness programs allow people from all walks of life to pursue higher education, even if they come from low-income backgrounds. These programs help level the playing field, giving everyone a chance to earn a degree and improve their economic standing. But if these programs are eliminated, we're going to see a sharp divide between those who can afford college and those who can't. Education has always been touted as the great equalizer, the key to unlocking opportunities and achieving the American dream. But if Project 2025 is successful, that promise disappears. Higher education will become a privilege reserved for the wealthy, while everyone else is left to either take on crushing debt or miss out on the opportunities that a degree provides. This will have long-lasting effects on our society. We're already seeing rising inequality in income and wealth, and Project 2025 will only make it worse. By denying access to affordable education, we're denying access to upward mobility. It's a system designed to keep the rich on top and prevent the rest of us from ever catching up. And what does that mean for our future? It means a society where the gap between the wealthy and the poor continues to widen, where social mobility is a thing of the past, and where the American dream is out of reach for millions. That's the future Project 2025 is creating. A future where the privileged few get ahead and the rest of us are left struggling to get by. Well, folks, thanks for sticking with us today. We've walked you through how Project 2025 is nothing short of a coordinated attack on the financial futures of millions of Americans. From ending student loan forgiveness to widening the gap between the wealthy and the poor, this plan is a blueprint for economic injustice. And like we said from the beginning, to defeat Project 2025, we must actively resist it. And here's how you can help. Go to turnleftpac.org. Sign up for our emails. You'll receive a letter template to send to your representatives in Congress demanding that they protect student loan forgiveness programs. Tell them that you won't support anyone who supports Project 2025's attack on our financial future. Project 2025 will bury millions under debt, strip opportunities from the poor, and create a society where the wealthy reign supreme. Ending student loan forgiveness isn't a conservative policy. It's an attack on working-class Americans. Like and share this video, and tag someone who needs to hear the truth. Stay tuned next for Ojeda Live after this episode. Thanks for listening, and keep fighting the good fight.